The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey, summarized by Detailed Book Summaries. Click on the subscribe button. Let us know in the comment below the book you would love us to summarize for you. Chapter 1: The Foundations of Effectiveness and the Invisible Power of Paradigms. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey begins by pulling us away from the quick-fix mindset that dominates modern life. The infographics edition makes this shift even more vivid by visually illustrating how people often chase shortcuts, hacks, tricks, surface-level techniques, while ignoring the deeper structures that govern their thoughts and actions. Covey argues that true effectiveness grows from the inside out. It is not about refining your behaviors to appear competent. It is about aligning your character with timeless principles that create genuine and sustainable growth. This foundation sets the stage for everything else, because Covey insists that effectiveness is never an accident. It is the product of deliberate inner work. At the heart of this foundation is what Covey calls paradigms, the mental lenses through which we see and interpret the world. Paradigms shape beliefs, and beliefs shape behavior. The infographics edition demonstrates this beautifully by showing how 2 people can look at the same situation, yet draw completely different conclusions. Covey invites readers to question their assumptions rather than merely adjusting their outward behavior. Real change, he asserts, only happens when you examine the stories you tell yourself and decide whether they are aligned with reality or distorted by fear, ego, or habit. For Covey, effectiveness begins when a person recognizes that their interpretations, not external events, define their experience. Covey introduces the concept of the character ethic versus the personality ethic. The latter focuses on appearance, how to sound confident, how to persuade others, how to create impressions. The former focuses on integrity, humility, responsibility, and long-term principles that guide personal growth. The infographics show how societies that prioritize personality over character often produce individuals with fragile success. People who appear successful but crumble under pressure. Covey's message is clear. Lasting effectiveness requires a foundation that cannot be shaken by circumstance. One of the most essential paradigm shifts Covey introduces is the idea of personal responsibility. He argues that highly effective people do not see themselves as victims of circumstance. Instead, they recognize the space between stimulus and response, a space where they can choose. This insight is illustrated visually as a gap that distinguishes proactive individuals from reactive ones. Reactive people blame circumstances, moods, or other people. Proactive people acknowledge what they cannot control, but take ownership of what they can influence. This shift from reaction to intention paves the way for habit 1 and becomes a psychological turning point for the reader. Covey also explains the powerful transition from dependence to independence to interdependence. Dependence is the state of relying on others. Independence is the ability to stand on one's own. Interdependence, which Covey argues is the highest level of maturity, is the recognition that collaboration with others creates far greater results than isolated effort. The infographics make this evolution easy to visualize. 3 stages, each building on the last, forming a ladder toward personal and interpersonal effectiveness. Covey emphasizes that the first 3 habits focus on private victories, winning the battles within yourself, while the next 3 address public victories, or how you interact with others. The final habit, renewal, supports all the others by ensuring continual growth. By the end of this opening chapter, Covey has laid a powerful foundation. He invites readers into a journey that demands honesty, commitment, and reflection. He encourages them to shift from a mindset of shortcuts to one of principles, from a worldview of reaction to one of agency, and from a belief in personality tricks to a faith in character. This foundation prepares the reader to understand not only the habits themselves, but the philosophy behind them, a philosophy that gives the book its enduring influence. Chapter 2, Mastering the Private Victories. Habits 1, 2, and 3 as pathways to personal leadership. The journey into effectiveness begins with the private victories, the internal transformations that shape a person's identity, choices, and direction. Covey's first 3 habits, be proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first things first, form a powerful progression from personal responsibility to clarity of purpose to disciplined execution. In the infographics edition, these habits come alive visually, showing how each habit strengthens a person's ability to navigate life with confidence and intention, rather than drifting through it. Habit 1, be proactive, serves as the cornerstone. It is more than merely taking initiative. It is about recognizing that your life is authored, not assigned. Proactivity means facing life with the steady conviction that the power to choose your response is always present. The infographics illustrate the difference between the circle of concern, things you worry about, and the circle of influence, things you can actually act upon. Highly effective people focus their energy on the latter, expanding their influence over time. Covey emphasizes language as a diagnostic tool. Reactive people say, I can't, I have to, or that's just the way I am. Proactive people say, I choose, I prefer, and I will. This shift in language symbolizes a shift in identity, a deep internal transformation that empowers the next habit. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind, invites readers to envision the destination of their lives before designing their actions. It is a habit of imagination and intentionality. Covey encourages the reader to picture their own funeral and consider what they would want others to say about them, the kind of character they hope to be remembered for. This exercise helps people break free from living reactively and instead live according to overarching values. The infographics edition presents captivating visual metaphors, such as blueprints and maps, reminding readers that leadership begins with vision. Without a clear sense of direction, people fall into routines dictated by external pressures rather than internal conviction. One of Covey's most impactful tools in this habit is the personal mission statement, which acts as a compass for decision-making. A mission statement grounds a person in principles, not circumstances. It clarifies what truly matters, making it easier to say no to distractions and yes to commitments that align with long-term purpose. Covey describes how individuals, families, and organizations flourish when they operate from a shared mission. The visuals in this edition show mission statements as anchors and guiding stars, reinforcing their stabilizing effect in turbulent times. Habit 3. Put first things first translates purpose into daily action. This habit is the practical counterpart to Habit 2. If Habit 2 is mental leadership, Habit 3 is personal management, transforming vision into discipline. Covey introduces his iconic time management matrix, distinguishing between tasks that are urgent and those that are important. Most people become trapped in Quadrant I crises and Quadrant III urgent but unimportant tasks. Effective people live primarily in Quadrant II, focusing on important activities like planning, relationships, health, and learning. These activities lack urgency, but create long-term effectiveness. The infographics vividly demonstrate how Quadrant II investments reduce the crises that dominate Quadrant I. Covey explains that effective self-management requires integrity, the ability to honor your commitments to yourself. This discipline is rooted in emotional maturity, not just productivity systems. It is a habit that demands continual awareness and personal accountability. By practicing this habit, individuals begin to align their daily choices with their long-term values, carving a path toward independence. The first 3 habits together represent a profound personal transformation. Gaining control of one's inner world, clarifying purpose, and organizing life around what matters most. Chapter 3. Achieving public victory. Interdependence, trust, and the art of working with others. Once individuals have achieved the private victories, they are ready to engage in Covey's public victories, habits that foster collaboration, trust, and harmony with others. The infographics edition depicts this shift visually as a bridge from self-mastery to interpersonal mastery. Covey asserts that interdependence is not weakness, it is strength multiplied. But true interdependence is only possible when individuals bring integrity, clarity, and emotional stability into relationships. When people lack inner strength, they enter relationships seeking validation or control, behaviors that breed conflict. The public habits help individuals build connections grounded in mutual benefit. Habit 4. Think win-win forms the foundation of all effective relationships. Covey clarifies that win-win is not a manipulative technique, but a deep-seated belief that there is enough success, recognition, and opportunity for everyone. Win-win is the alternative to win-lose competitiveness, lose-win appeasement, or lose-lose destruction. The infographics edition uses diagrams to show how these mental models create emotional climates. When thinkers operate from an abundance mindset, they believe collaboration expands possibility rather than dilutes it. Covey insists that achieving win-win outcomes requires both courage and consideration, standing up for your needs while honoring the needs of others. Without this balance, relationships become transactional or exploitative. Covey introduces the concept of the emotional bank account, a metaphor for the trust people build with one another. Every act of kindness, honesty, or respect is a deposit. Every act of disrespect, betrayal, or neglect is a withdrawal. Trust grows slowly through consistent deposits, but can be depleted instantly through a single harmful action. The infographics represent this metaphor through visual accounts that rise or fall depending on behavior. Covey stresses that trust is not a bonus, but a prerequisite for meaningful cooperation. When trust is high, communication becomes easy and misunderstandings are rare. When trust is low, every interaction becomes strained and guarded. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood amplifies this trust-building process. Covey argues that most people listen with the intent to reply rather than with the intent to understand. They filter others' words through their own experiences, assumptions, and judgments, often missing the true meaning. Empathic listening requires patience, presence, and humility. It means validating others' emotions and perspectives before offering solutions or opinions. Covey illustrates how empathic listening transforms interactions by reducing defensiveness and creating psychological safety. Only after truly understanding another person's perspective can one communicate their own ideas effectively. This habit changes the nature of conversations from competitive exchanges to collaborative problem solving. Habit 6. Synergize is the climax of the public victories. Synergy is not merely cooperation. It is the creation of outcomes greater than the sum of their parts. Covey explains that synergy emerges when people embrace differences rather than resist them. Instead of seeing disagreements as obstacles, synergistic thinkers view them as sources of creativity. The infographics depict synergy as an explosion of new ideas arising from diverse viewpoints. Covey argues that valuing differences, intellectual, emotional, cultural, makes collaboration more innovative. Synergy converts conflict into opportunity and transforms groups into high-functioning teams capable of exceptional results. It is the ultimate reward of the public habits. By the end of this chapter, the reader understands that effectiveness is not only personal, but relational. Private victories build character, public victories build trust and collaboration. Together, they create a life of meaningful influence. Chapter 4. The Habit of Renewal. Sharpening the Saw and Sustaining Long-Term Growth. After building the 6 habits that transform character and relationships, Covey introduces Habit 7. Sharpen the Saw, a habit dedicated to continuous renewal. In the infographics edition, this habit is illustrated as a cycle that regenerates energy, passion, and purpose. Covey argues that effectiveness is impossible to maintain without deliberate renewal in 4 essential dimensions: physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. Each area is interdependent, and neglecting one eventually weakens the others. Renewal is not a luxury. It is a requirement for sustained growth. The physical dimension involves caring for the body through exercise, nutrition, rest, and stress management. Covey explains that physical renewal preserves stamina and sharpens mental clarity. The visuals highlight how even small investments in physical health compound over time. Many people sacrifice their health while chasing success, only to discover that weakened bodies undermine their long-term goals. Covey encourages simple, consistent physical practices that build resilience and enhance daily effectiveness. The spiritual dimension connects individuals to deeper meaning, values, and purpose. It is the realm of reflection, gratitude, meditation, and alignment with principles. Covey describes spiritual renewal as the root system of a healthy life. When people lose touch with their inner compass, they drift into reactions, insecurity, and confusion. The infographics depict spiritual renewal as grounding energy that stabilizes all other dimensions. The mental dimension requires continual learning and intellectual growth. Covey argues that reading, studying, reflecting, and engaging in creative work cultivates a sharp mind capable of problem solving and innovation. The visuals emphasize how mental renewal expands a person's ability to understand complex situations and respond effectively. Without mental renewal, habits decay into mechanical routines. Finally, the social-emotional dimension focuses on relationships, empathy, service, and emotional intelligence. Covey stresses that emotional strength emerges from meaningful connections and acts of kindness. The emotional bank account, introduced earlier, plays a major role here. The infographics portray emotional renewal as a network of trust and support that strengthens one's resilience. When emotional renewal is neglected, stress rises and relationships deteriorate, undermining effectiveness in both personal and professional domains. Habit 7 creates balance and prevents burnout. Covey describes it as the engine that keeps the other habits alive. Without renewal, even the most disciplined routines degrade. Renewal demands intentionality, just like the other habits, and must be woven into daily life. By investing in all 4 dimensions, individuals maintain long-term effectiveness rather than short-term performance. Chapter 5: Integrating the 7 habits into a purposeful and effective life. As the book concludes, Covey brings all 7 habits together into a unified model of personal and interpersonal effectiveness. The infographics edition illustrates this integration through dynamic visuals that show how the habits interact across a person's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual life. Covey explains that these habits are not techniques, but principles, laws of human behavior that align individuals with effectiveness, fulfillment, and contribution. They work together like gears in a well-designed system, each habit strengthening the others. Covey emphasizes that the shift from dependence to independence to interdependence is not linear, but cyclical. As individuals face new stages of life, new challenges, and new responsibilities, they must continually revisit the habits. Habit 1 reinforces agency, helping people take ownership in difficult circumstances. Habit 2 keeps them aligned with values when distractions arise. Habit 3 disciplines their actions when life becomes chaotic. Habits 4, 5, and 6 elevate relationships, enabling individuals to collaborate, resolve conflict, and create outcomes far greater than what they could achieve alone. Habit 7 ensures that the entire system remains sustainable. Covey reminds readers that these habits require effort and intention. They are not quick wins. They transform identity, not just behavior. Yet the rewards are immeasurable: stronger relationships, clearer purpose, deeper resilience, and greater long-term success. Perhaps most importantly, these habits help people live principled lives, lives guided not by trends or external pressures, but by timeless values. The infographics edition makes this message particularly impactful, turning abstract principles into visible, memorable images that stay with the reader. Covey concludes with a hopeful message. Effectiveness is a journey, not a destination. Anyone willing to embrace deliberate growth can cultivate these habits and create a life marked by contribution, joy, and lasting influence. The 7 habits are not merely tools for success. They are a compass for becoming the best version of oneself and uplifting the lives of others in the process. Click on the subscribe button. Let us know in the comment below the book you would love us to summarize for you.